Getting the thumbs up. Let's go. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So we'll continue tonight with our summer series. Thank you for allowing me the chance to prep a class and to stand before you. Tonight we are going to be talking about laziness. Yes. And late last week, I was out on my back porch studying for this, and Sophia was out there with me, and she was like, well, what are you going to be teaching on? I said, oh, laziness. And she said, oh, that'll be perfect for you. So I don't know how she meant that, which way she was coming at it for that, but I was like, that's how I'm leading the class off, right there. So, true to my word. All right. So we're going to talk about let's say older person's favorite topic tonight, which is laziness. All right, bear with me. I'm going to give you a quote from a lesson book that I read kind of in preparation for this, and it's great. Okay, so and this is how the lesson in this guy's book started off. Okay, the whole subject of laziness is how it starts off. One of the dangers of modern life is rearing children to be lazy. In the suburbs, there are no cows to milk, wood to chop, and gardens to hoe. Dishes are done by a dishwasher, clothes are washed by a washer and dried by a dryer. And at this point, I think he picks his cane up and starts shaking it, and he says, consequently, many young people are reared without good work habits. They are taught to waste time watching TV, listening to records. Okay, that's I like that one. Listening to records and going to recreational outings. Okay, yes. All right. Now, again, there's kind of a stereotype of, we'll say, the older, more senior of us, who always they're always reminding the younger about how good they have it and how hard they had to work. And there's certainly some truth to that. But I want to kind of start your mind off tonight with a question we're going to ask later in the lesson: is laziness? Does it have an attribute of age to it? Like, is it something that's more akin to someone that's younger, or does it apply throughout all our lives from birth to grave? Okay, so that's kind of where I want our minds to kind of be going. Is age associated with laziness at all? So don't answer now, but just kind of prompt your mind to that. So how I divided this study, because Proverbs, as we know, very practical. There's a lot of, if you do this, you will end up, you could be wealthy, or you could be, in a better position. And so there's some physical, and I put of this world, consequences of laziness. So we're going to look at that first, and then we're going to apply it to spiritual laziness. So I'm trying to divide two of them. Majority of the time is going to be physical, then we're going to get into kind of the spiritual laziness, if everything works out according to plan. So, would you turn with me to Proverbs? We're going to be reading a bunch tonight. I didn't write a bunch on the board, so I want us to be flipping through Proverbs because it's not that big of a book. We're going to look at Proverbs 12, verse 11, and that's where we're going to start tonight. Proverbs 12, verse 11. And one of the, it's not a problem, but one of the things sometimes with Proverbs that we might lose track of is that a lot of times, this is obviously written a long, long time ago, and some of the metaphors, the analogies, and examples that we see in our modern life, we might not be able to relate to it as much. So Proverbs 12:11 is one example. He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity is devoid of understanding. And I read out of the New King James Version, so yours might be a little bit different, but it's probably more the same than not. But, how many of us have tilled our land in order to eat? Some of us probably. Maybe some are recreational gardeners, but that's not something that most of us see on a regular basis. If I don't do this, then I don't eat. Same thing with the verse that's on the board. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is man's precious possession. So we do have hunters here, I know. But those that don't hunt, you can't really fathom that there are people lazy enough that they kill something and they don't eat it. Well, there are. So that's a thing here. Let's see. So also, what about this one? So as vinegar to this is one of my favorite ones, by the way. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy man to those who send him. So how many of us have ever had smoke in our eyes? Most, right? There's some campers. So back, not even that far long ago, ladies here, if you're cooking, it was wood stove, outdoor fireplace, whatever it is. Smoke's always getting in your eyes. It's painful. It hurts. So to help bring this image alive to us modern day humans, this is what having smoke in your eyes looks like, okay? Noah right there, look at that, it's pain, that is anguish, okay? It's the perfect picture for this class, all right? So I love it when I can bring that here. But when we are lazy, each of us, because we probably all are guilty of this, right? That's what we cause other people to feel like around us. That's literally what that verse is saying. So it's great. And that's one of the beauties of Proverbs is that everyone can get this. I can give you a down-to-earth example, and bam, they have everybody understands this. So let's jump in. So the way I kind of structured it is I want to go over 7 kind of recurring themes throughout Proverbs as it has to relate to laziness that I've seen. And you might identify some more. Feel free to throw them out there at the end, or you think, hey, that's not really a theme, let's have a conversation. So this is, of my head, 7 recurring themes that I found when reading through the book of Proverbs as it relates to laziness. The first one is excessive sleep, all right? And this is maybe going to be one of those lessons that everyone feels guilty towards the end of it. I don't know. But let's see what Proverbs has to say about excessive sleep. Let's go to Proverbs 6, and we're going to start towards the left and then go to the right for each one. We'll go Proverbs 6 through 11. Proverbs 6 through 11. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no captain, overseer, or ruler, provides her supplies in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. How long will you slumber, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep? So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. Turn to 19:15. 19:15. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. Idleness is another quality we're going to see soon. And then in chapter 20, verse 13, do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will be satisfied with bread. So we see here a recurring theme, and this is just 3 of them. There's several other ones, that sleep equals poverty. And so that's an interesting thought. So I mean, just the opposite is diligence, right? And kind of a natural thing is, in order to just be diligent, you have to show up, and in order to show up, you have to be awake. So this seems common sense, but this is also something that a lot of us probably struggle with at different times in our lives. Any comments or questions on sleep? Okay, all right. Everybody feels guilty. Let's go to the next one. Okay. All right. The next one is idleness and chatter. Again, these are kind of themes that I've found. So 14, let's go to chapter 14, verse 23. 14, verse 23. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads only to poverty. So New Testament concept, what do we think about idle chatter? What's another word for that a lot of times? Gossip. Very good. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Very good, JD. Thank you. So that's something that leads to poverty, something that is included in with laziness is a tendency, a propensity to chat, to talk. Chatty Cathy, if you will, Chatty Pete, whatever you want to call that. Let's go to chapter 24, verse 30. And we might read some of these. Some of these have to do with different themes. So we'll definitely touch on this next one again. I went by the field of a lazy man, and by the vineyard of a man devoid of understanding, and there it was, all grown with thorns. Its surface was covered with nettles. Its stone wall was broken down. When I saw it, I considered it well. I looked on it and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. I apologize, that doesn't have chatter, but it does have idleness in this point. And the point with idleness, folding of the hands, you have, hey, there's work to be done, and I'm going to look on that, and I'm going to evaluate it. I'm going to sit back and choose not to do it. Or maybe even not choose. You're just not going to do it. You're just going to think about doing it all day long. So that's the idea with both one, chattering, gossiping, busybody, whatever you call it, and also with idleness. Let's jump to the New Testament real fast. 1 Timothy chapter 5. And I have on here 1 Timothy chapter 4, that's a typo, it's chapter 5, verses 9 through 13. In the context here, Paul is telling Timothy, we're talking about widows being added to the number of for daily distributions within the congregation. But let's look and see how we can pull something about laziness in here. So 1 Timothy 5, 9 through 13. Do not let a widow under 60 years old be taken into the number, and not unless she has been the wife of one man, well reported for good works, if she has brought up children, if she has lodged strangers, if she has washed the saints' feet, if she has relieved the afflicted, if she has diligently followed every good work. And right there, that diligently, that's the counterpoint to this. That's where we're going to see all this, the polar opposite is diligence. Okay, verse 11, but refuse the younger widows, for when they have begun to grow wanton against Christ, they desire to marry, having condemnation because they cast off their first faith, and besides they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, not only idle, but also gossips and busybodies, saying things which they ought not. So we see this young widow, whether or not she has children, her kind of physical obligations to provide for others, whether it be a husband or children or whatever, that has gone away. And so now she's kind of just on her own. And so now instead of contributing, she's wanting to become part of the churches take care of her. No, don't do that. She can go, she can work, because what's the other option? The other option is you become idle. And what is something that comes from idleness? Byproduct is busybodiness, gossiping, whatever it might be. So we, again, thought it was interesting having a New Testament example here with this. Questions, comments? Yes, sir?
You mentioned the younger widows being idle, but here, actually, go back a few books. Paul told the Thessalonians, if anyone does not work, he shall not eat. We see that applied to the older widows too. It's not necessarily a worldly job that would earn a conventional wage, but they should be known for good works. If we go back a few verses in chapter 5, they should be praying to God day and night. So they are supposed to be doing something still.
Right, absolutely. And we're going to get to that one with hunger as it specifically relates to working and seeing that as it relates. So thank you so much. And it's kind of interesting there too, because you're kind of taking the older widows and even the younger ones and judging their life from what they've done. And have they been productive? What has been their reputation? Are they known for all of these good works, or are they known for the opposite? And so again, kind of heavy responsibilities on the church to know the members. Yes, sir?
But even at that, right before that, it would say, command these things well so that they may be without reproach. If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So it isn't just the widows that are being righteously judged by the standard of diligence and working and things like that. And as I'm sure you'll go there in 1 Thessalonians and then 2 Thessalonians, see a progression of church discipline, of admonishing the idle and then withdrawing from the idle. So yeah, we should all be judging with righteous judgment on this, not going around as church police, but going around as trying to admonish each other and making sure that, hey, we're motivating each other and building each other up.
This one was I'll get to you 1 second, sir, sorry. This one was a hard subject to me, and maybe I say that for all of them, because when you take a subject and you start dialing into it, because, laziness, okay, well, what about contentment? And how do you, I'm not working because I'm content. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense, because, just because you're not working to put money in your pocket, perhaps, but you need to be working, doing good works for God. And that's kind of the point is, as Christians, we don't get time off per se from being Christians and doing good works. So thank you for that. Yes, sir?
I think it's obvious to note that it says that there's a list for taking care of widows. That the way it's phrased, it's not if, it's how many people are on the list.
That it's an intentional work to keep track of those individuals. Yeah, good point. All right, let's go to point number 3. So, as Matthew alluded to, not poverty, laziness produces hunger. And maybe not so much nowadays, I'm sure it is, and I know even people within our own number experience hunger. So I don't want to gloss over that. But maybe we've lost something just with the modern society and the Me working to go get food, that's me driving to Walmart. I did that right before I ate, and within an hour I was eating. Here, you have to plan a year out. You're planting, you're doing all this stuff to reap the benefits of your work. And there were real consequences for not doing that. Let's go to Proverbs 16, verse 26. Proverbs 16:26. The person who labors for himself, for his hungry mouth drives him on. So what's his motivation? He has to eat. Yeah, I mean, it's a necessary part of life, right? Let's go to 19:15. Proverbs 19, verse 15. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. You sit around, guess what? You're going to be hungry. Interesting. And then we've already read chapter 20, verse 13, but we'll read it again just for emphasis. 20, verse 13, do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will be satisfied with bread. And again, we might have lost a little bit now, but definitely there's a correlation between hunger and being kind of the solution to laziness. Yes, sir?
When you say planning in and of itself, think about the complexity of what you have to face. Let's take for your job example, the continual learning, the continual application, the management of people, what you have to do in order to plan ahead to make sure that your company is successful. Well, okay, let's talk about houses, housework. What do you have to do to put into a house to make it sell for more? Or even the stock market. When I got out of college and they give you a 401k and say, okay, good luck. And you go,
Right.
Wait. I think that planning in and of itself takes many different shapes and forms as society has progressed. Yes, it is infinitely easier for me to go out and buy food at a store, but to expect someone even 20 years ago to do the job that I do now is impossible. There's no way. They don't understand. The technology didn't exist.
Right.
So I think difficulties will come how they always come. Now, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, but I think it'll always be there, no matter.
I guess my point is, so last night I went to bed hungry, okay? I dreamt about food. I'm going to put my business out there. I had dreams about food. I'm on a diet. That's the reason I'm hungry. It's not because I don't have access to food. Like if I was even low on what we would consider the poverty level, there's still access to some food. There's a lot of benefit programs, and thank God for those things. Again, I don't want to diminish anybody. But the immediate correlation between you don't work, you don't eat, we don't see it as much. Some, but not as much. So here's my first question for tonight is, how do you balance our obligation to help people when we see them with allowing the cure of, we'll call it suffering, with other people? And it doesn't necessarily have to be hunger. I can, let's make it a little bit broader with suffering as a whole. How do you balance those things? How would you? JD?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is what I believe to be the more secular proverb of give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. That in itself encapsulates the answer to this balance that you brought up. Where sure you can give of your means and just give them what they need, or still with those means within.
Yeah. And they have to have a desire to learn, right? So that would be, yeah, got it. Yes, sir.
I think 1st and 2nd Thessalonians hold the answer for that, because in chapter 5 of the first book, we're told that we urge you, this is verse 14 of chapter 5, he says, and we urge you, brothers, admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. So he's urging, hey, admonish them and be patient with them. But by the time you get to 2 Thessalonians 3, he would say, now we commend you, brothers, this is chapter 3, verse 6, we commend you, brothers, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you keep away from any brother who is walking in idleness and not in accord with the tradition that you received from us. You yourselves know how you ought to imitate us, because we were not idle when we were with you. So he's telling them, hey, it's a progression. It's not a blanket. Okay, for everyone all time, this is how we do it. We start off patiently. We help them. we admonish them and we teach them and we see, hey, how can we get you back on your feet and get you back to work? Then if we come to find out, okay, you can work, and you're just choosing not to.
Yeah.
You are beginning to freeload on the congregation. That's someone that needs that admonishment. And then to the way he takes it in 2 Thessalonians, maybe some church discipline should follow that because, hey, you are not walking in accordance with what the gospel would have.
Right, yeah.
So if we're talking about a brother in Christ, for someone of the world, do good to them. Just do good. And be a bright light for them so that you can maybe at that point reach them.
Yeah. Good line of logic. I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. I didn't know if you were just talking about, there's a lot of people that we run into on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
People who make accountability and things like that. So, judgment's going to be necessary, but sometimes we may assume something that may not actually be true. They
Right.
could just be hungry, and asking them if they do want some food or something like that. And think about the Good Samaritan. Everybody could have passed by and said, "Man, look at what he's done with his life." He was actually in need. And so Galatians chapter 6, verse 10, what Zach just said, I think there is an opportunity there that you never know.
They can see that. Right. It's like almost let yourself be, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to take my money or whatever it might be. Right.
I experienced that in my life. When mom was down with her back being a single parent, and there were people who left food at our apartment.
Right.
No idea who they were, and so it wasn't a result of being lazy or anything like that. It was just working so hard.
Absolutely. And this is one of those it's a little bit of a touchy subject because it does involve a lot of judgment there, and you almost want to err on the side of I'm gonna be right in the sight of God, but then there's on the other side the prodigal son, where he has to hit rock bottom. Like the worst thing that can happen is someone keep bailing him out, right? Stephen, go ahead. Sorry.
Some of this really makes me think about Ephesians 4, as part of the purpose of our work is so that we might have something to give someone who is.
That's true, yeah.
That's part of the reason that we're working,
Yes.
is to have something to give. So if we're never seeing that as an opportunity, we might be kind of ignoring some responsibility we have.
Right, yeah. And just kind of looking for, one thing we're going to get to is excuses. Looking for the lazy man, and this is going to get to the spiritual side, looks for excuses to not do something. And that, absolutely. Well, they might not appreciate this. I better not give it to them, or whatever it might be. Yes, sir.
Brother, I think your point is that there's balance even in making judgments here. And that's really what the whole subject here. There's got to be a balance. One person may judge someone else being lazy, and when that's not the case. And they don't know that person. They don't know the situation, the circumstances. To your point about the prodigal son, in Luke 15, verse 16, this boy was so bad and so slothful in what he'd done and would refuse to repent of his life, the scripture says in verse 16, and no one gave him anything. It got to the point that even his friends, where he was his friends dead in his sin, wouldn't even give to him anything. That's when he hit rock bottom that he had to wake up.
Came to his senses, yeah.
There's a time to give, to help, and there's a time that we shouldn't even help someone in their sin.
Absolutely, and I'm happy you phrased it like that. I was looking for someone to do it more eloquently than I was. I've had substance abuse issues in my family, and I know, close family, and I know what it took for this person to get clean was everyone turning their back on him. I mean, it gives me cold chills thinking about it because it's horrific. Seeing this person that you love go through that, and it's disgusting thinking about it. But what is love and what is in that situation? So again, balance. Thank you. All right, last comment. We're moving.
Well, even in Proverbs 6, the first part, there's wisdom given to us, even if we do help people with, if we do it with a loan or something like that. There's potential
Right.
danger with that.
Right.
How we give, hey, I'm just going to give this to you. There's no expectation of it coming.
There's wisdom attached to that. Yeah. Good point.
So there's even wisdom with making those decisions with how we do it.
Very good point. Stu, I can't turn you down. What am I not going to do it? Go ahead.
We have to be careful. You think about one of Jesus' last sermons before the Passover, before he was crucified, was Matthew 24 and 25. Some very a very scary section in Matthew 25 where there's this great separation between sheep and goats. And the difference between the two was essentially the love and generosity that one group showed and the other did not. And so even as we work through these things, we're expected to be generous and loving, and I agree, err on the side of being generous.
Right.
Or else that passage really scares me.
Yeah.
In terms of how am I towards my fellow man?
Yeah. All right, we're moving. Yeah, thank you very much, Sue. I appreciate it. Thank you for evening that out. All right, I think we're on point 4. So laziness itself produces destruction and poverty. And again, that's something that, can, and what we're not saying, just to be perfectly crystal clear, is we're not saying that poverty equals laziness. That's not what we're saying at all. But we are saying that laziness does lead sometimes to poverty, that is a natural. If you go down the line of continuing being lazy, it will end in poverty. Now, poverty to us is different than poverty to somebody in Zimbabwe or whatever it might be, but there is poverty. So let's go to 18:9, chapter 18, verse 9. Oh, excuse me. I messed that one up. Here, let's go to chapter 21, 25, and 26. 21, 25, and 26. Apologize for that. The desire of the lazy man kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. He covets greedily all day long, but the righteous gives and does not spare. So it actually leads ultimately to his untimely death. There's something with that. And notice also that the coveting nature of it. Chapter 28, verse 19. Chapter 28, verse 19. He who tills his land, here we go again, will have plenty of bread, but he who follows frivolity will have poverty enough. So again, it produces poverty here. And these are spiritual applications that we're making, literally feeling hunger again, but we're going to get into the spiritual side. So again, just trying to keep prepping that where we're going. The next one is that laziness produces excuses. And this might be one of those chicken or the egg type thing. Do excuses produce laziness, or does laziness produce excuses? So let's go to chapter 20, verse 4. Chapter 20, verse 4. The lazy man will not plow because of winter. He will beg during harvest and have nothing. Notice, what's the reason he's not plowing? He's not out working hard. It's cold. Hey, he's lazy, but the excuse is it's cold outside. Ooh, the days are short. I just can't do anything. It's so cold. It gets cold every year. This happens every year. It's like a shock, right? It's an excuse. Let's go to 22:13. 22 verse 13. The lazy man says, and this one's great, there is a lion outside. I shall be slain in the streets. There's this figment of fear. There is a legit reason why I can't do that. Okay. Now let's go to 26:13. 26:13, and we're going to read 13 to 16. Very similar language here. The lazy man says, there is a lion in the road. A fierce lion is in the streets. As the door turns on its hinges, so does the lazy man on his bed. I like saying that to my kids. The lazy man buries his head in the bowl. It wearies him to bring it back to his mouth. Verse 16, the lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. And I love this because we've all known someone like that, right? Like, I had to do a bunch of painting at my kid's school, and literally, I was there for like a month here recently, okay? And it was most days for like 2 or 3 hours, and so by the end of it, just exhausted, done with it. Another dad came in, and he was like, you really should have started taping a little bit sooner. And just starts, I'm like, where were you a month ago? Everyone is wiser in their own eyes. They can sit back and they can judge a situation and say, you know what, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you need to be doing it. That's the wisdom of the fool or the lazy person, is they're so wise in their own eyes. There's always excuses as to why they can't do it. One thing with being lazy too, and this was something I thought about, was sometimes lazy people don't know they're lazy. That's the problem. It's like, he doesn't know he's lazy, or maybe I don't know I'm lazy. I don't know. So here's the thing. talking about grown-ups now. Let's put the kids to the side, and let's say grown-ups. When we're dealing with lazy coworkers, lazy Christians, or whoever it might be, how do you get through to them? Can you get through to them? What methods can you use? What do we think? I know it's a hard question. I'm literally asking because I have a hard time. Sean, it's going to be great.
Because I'm the first one talking, that means I'm the fool because I think I know what's right.
No.
But I guess the idea is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. No one will ever do anything they don't want to do unless it's for someone they really love, like camping with your wife.
Sure.
In my experience, the best you can do is try to help, but in the end, it's going to be their decision.
Yeah.
Can't change that. You can help, but you can't change it.
Yes, sir.
Starts with knowing the people that you worship with. Because if you just look around, you're going to see everybody sitting here listening attentively, and nobody in here, by just glancing around, is going to look lazy.
Yeah, right.
So if you know them, if you spend time with them and you get to understand, hey, here are their strengths, here are their weaknesses, you begin to find out, okay, there is a propensity there for maybe a little bit on the lazy side. And
Right, yeah.
it gives you something to work with, which is going to be a little better received because you've built a relationship.
And that's what I was going toward is building that relationship, because two brothers in Christ should be able to hey, how am I? Am I messed up in any way? Tell me, and being able to gently call attention and be like, hey, I think you're capable of a lot more than you're putting out. And that's almost like a compliment too. It's like, oh, you can do more? Okay. Yes,
I think maybe in conversation, it naturally comes up about just career or things that you're working on. So
Yeah.
maybe share or ask questions about if you have concerns about this in someone. That's a touchy subject, really. But you say, hey, we got to remember who we're working for. Colossians.
Right.
Partly to the Lord.
For the Lord, yeah.
I mean, we got a different boss than everybody else, right? I mean, so we think differently as Christians about our work. We think differently about kind of what we're doing every day. But also part of it is allowing that person to maybe they complain about something to you, and say, well, let me hear more about that complaint.
Right.
Where do you think the origin of that's coming from? And let them kind of work through like, maybe I have this problem because I'm not really
Something I'm doing.
Yes.
Right.
So I think kind of leading them to that conclusion rather than just calling somebody out.
Right. Yeah. You have to have a real close relationship with somebody. Yeah. Totally. Sir.
Except in your home, where we as parents have a responsibility to lead the guide, to train our children. Right? I think you probably know that, but that includes teaching them what it means to be industrious.
Right. Yeah. And I'll give you, so this dinner tonight, Julia's job is to load the washer and do the dryer and all that stuff sent from the guy at the very beginning. Somebody's got to load it. And what's funny is Luke, he is short, but we want him to get involved. So he's in charge of putting the stuff in the silverware, right? And he hates it, and it's gross and all this. And I was getting on to Julia. I was like, Julia, go over there and just help hand him a fork. And she's like, Dad, that doesn't make any sense. She's like, I could just put it in, and it's like, this is what you're talking about. And I was like, that's not the point. Actually, I was like, just do what I said. And then afterwards, I was like, listen, this is why we're doing it, is like, we've got to get him involved where Noah's doing this, Julie's doing this, I'm doing this, or, and give Luke, no matter how far it is, if that's all, just something, so he's not just sitting back like a king getting his food, right?
One thing I always thought was...
No, go ahead.
One thing I always thought was interesting is how stupid and how obvious the excuse is in chapter 22, verse 13. When he says, hey, there's a lion outside. Somebody had to get to his house and ask him the question, hey, let's go out to work. And no, there's a lion outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of inferences with that make it...
One in the streets. I'm not sure how many lions were in the streets back then.
Right.
But there's excuses so obvious to everybody,
Yeah.
Somebody raised a lion, supposedly, to tell you to go out and work. And you're saying, no, I can't.
You can't do it. Right. Well, that's a good observation. Tim?
Show the results of all the things you're doing. So not only just use your son as an example, same thing. Show him how to clean the counter is. When you get done, show him how.
Yeah. Yep.
And that can be in the church. That can be all the work that you're doing. If you've got somebody that's not doing it, try to get them close by. You work extra intense and show them there are rewards for those activities. And once they see it, that's a strong motivator.
Right. Build up some little bit of, and I hate the word pride, but pride in what you're doing, pride in craftsmanship and diligence. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, sir. Last comment, and we're moving.
Ask someone to do something individually. People are less likely to volunteer out of the blue to do something. Or if you ask a group, say, I'll let somebody else answer. If you ask someone individually, they're more likely to say yes and
That's great. Right. I like that one. It's like when, you're always taught whenever you tell someone to dial 911 if you're coming to an emergency scene, you dial 911 so there's no ambiguity. Same concept. All right. So leave this. This is number 6. It's observable. Laziness is observable. And we're not going to get into this, but the point with this one, we're going to skip the reading of this one. It dealt with the garden and being able to go by it and learn from it. And we see here, there's a reputation with people. Lazy people have that reputation. For the elders here, could a lazy man, I'm literally asking, can a lazy man be an elder? So no. News to me, right? It'd be, why not? Is that listed out as a qualification? Exactly. So other people, the way on the outside look at you, right? And so what is the reputation in your workplace of a lazy person? It's not a good one. Like if we call someone being recommended an elder and we called their employer and he's like, well, I'm not going to ask him to do it. That's not a good reputation. And that's the thing that all of us need to be striving towards is what's our reputation from our teacher, our parents, our employer, whatever it might be. And then lastly, for this section, is it's contrasted with diligence. And so let's read these. So in chapter 12, verse 27. Chapter 12, verse 27. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting. We read this a second ago. But diligence is a man's precious possession. In chapter 21, verse 5. Chapter 21, verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. So we see hastiness versus diligence, care, and following through. In chapter 22, verse 29, do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. This is someone that he has pride in what he's doing. What people think of him, his reputation with his crafty work, whatever his skill is, it's so good that it brings him up with kings. So that's how we need to approach our lives. And in verse 31, for the ladies, in chapter 31, verse 27, she watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. So who wants a wife like that? I have one. But everybody, right? And I want to pause for a second and commend Kendall, I don't want to embarrass him, for last week's lesson. He did a fantastic job. And think about this. Kyle just gave his daughter away, and I hate to embarrass y'all, just gave his daughter away to a guy. And now, I have a little girl, and a lot of us dads, we have girls, and we're always nervous, maybe it's just me, of what kind of guy is she going to marry. Please don't let him be lazy. Like, please, right? And think about, Kendall, he could have given all types of excuses. Hey, like, I'm still new here. No one really knows me, whatever. But he volunteers and jumps in and just got in there. Would we do that if we went back to his congregation? I hope so. But he's not someone that's lazy. So don't prove me wrong in football season by watching 3 games straight in a row. But but think about from Kyle's perspective, like seeing your son-in-law up there just married, like, yes. All right, that's how we should be. So, anyways, sorry to embarrass y'all, but it was too good of a subject. So, all right, now, any other themes that y'all can think of from laziness? Yes, sir.
In the Sermon on the Mount class we're doing right now, we're talking about murder and true character and true righteousness, and contrasted with diligence. I've been dwelling on David a lot. It's one of my favorite characters in the Bible, and in true contrast to his diligence, he was a man after God's own heart, but when the army went away, he stayed at his palace.
and which led to Bathsheba. And I think you can make a real compelling argument that idleness and laziness is what led to that, and which led to the downfall and staying on his whole family, all the way to Solomon to building the idols.
Sure, yeah.
Generations later.
Yeah, it's great point. Great point that laziness itself leads to a lot of other things. That if you're busy diligently doing something, what's the saying, idle hands lead to sin, or something along those lines? Pardon me?
Idle hands are the devil's workshop.
You have time. You got time on your hands. And what comes of that? So, same thing with nothing good happens after midnight. Is that what it is? Go ahead.
I was thinking about how throughout all of these, it's such a blessing to see how God's Word guides us in a way that really does produce the best possible life on earth. It doesn't mean it's always easy, but the best possible life. This is a great example of how God guides us in that way. But also to see how these passages all speak of things that are within our control. Whether I'm lazy or not is within my control. There's outward circumstances that may cause me poverty, regardless of how hard.
Right.
But it's really dealing with things I have complete control over, which again, just seems like such a blessing from God that He just assures me that if I take care of the things that are within my control, He's in control of everything around me.
You can control your work ethic. Absolutely. And I don't mean to sum up what you said. You said it great, so I appreciate that. Anthony, do you have some? Yes.
And also connected with the whole lesson here, physical laziness in contrast with diligence. Make that the lesson of spiritual laziness and the cost of our soul if we do not grow as we ought. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5 through verse 11. Here that word diligence is used twice. We've got to be diligent in our growth and adding to our faith.
Absolutely. We're going to go there, and we're not going to have time to. I thought I was going to have a lot of extra time tonight, so this is something wrong with me as a teacher. It always happens to me. But we're going to talk about this, the parable of the talents. So, and God giving. Let's go to Matthew 25. Matthew 25. And I'll read the amended version, starting in verse 24. Then he who received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. What is that? That's an excuse, right? And when I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground, look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant. Lazy, right there. That word is lazy, slothfulness, idle. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed, so you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers. And he goes on. Another chilling verse for me is Luke 12:48. For everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required. That's something considering where we are in our society, and this is where we'll end. We live in, and you can disagree with me and we can talk history, but we live in the most prosperous society in the history of mankind. We live in the most stable society. Even with all the politics and craziness, look at any other time in human history, and it doesn't compare. Stability. We live in the most education. I ordered 2 Bibles in other languages because I was curious about something. Amazon, they came in the next day. Crazy. An African language came in the next day. We have such access to the Word of God, but do we actually do anything with it? Which leads us to areas where we can be spiritually lazy. So the first one, I put this on here because this is the area that I am the laziest in of all these. And of these, whatever the one that probably raises your blood pressure a little bit, that's probably it. If you're not having excuses and if you're looking at yourself, I need to do better with my prayers. I need to be more deliberate with it. I need to just do better and do more. Individual Bible study, again, I've got like 10 Bibles in my house. Am I reading it? How many Bibles do we have on the pews in front of us? It's an insane amount of wisdom that's right at our fingertips that the majority of people never had. Our attendance. And I think too, and again, this isn't, I'm just saying numbers. You look at all the things the elders are doing for us as far as the effort that we will never know, that they look at us and say, you know what, I think we need to do this class, we're having this issue, we need to do this class, let's have a special study here, let's do this. The assumption there with all of that is that we're going to show up. You know, if we don't show up, guess what? Like the part about you have to, in order to be diligent, you have to open your eyes and get up, that's the same thing. Our numbers this last Sunday was like 280. Now, look around, how many people are here right now? Now, granted, there's probably 40 back there, but there's nowhere near 280. So forgive the expression of preaching to the choir, but we can all exhort those who by choice don't show up. And I know all of us fall into that category sometimes. That's all I have tonight. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I hope you were able to get something out of it. I know I was. So thank you.